it's very important when you do investment to mix and match. Different type of investments. Some might be shorter term, some might be longer term, but you offer something which is balanced to your clients.
I'm Lawrence Francis, founder of Interpreting Wine, welcoming you to this special two-part series produced in partnership with Oeno Group. Across 2 episodes, we meet Head of Trade Olivier Gasselin, focusing on their development into the on-trade and plans for future expansion, before inviting Justin Nock, MW, to explore the company's approach to wine investment and the unique relationship they enjoy with their collectors. If at any point in the series you'd like more detail on wine investment with Oeno Group, please email info@oenofuture.com. And for more info on Oeno House, their fine wine boutique, email louisa@oenohouse.com. In today's episode with Olivier, we first hear his origin story and entry into the wine world in his native Loire Valley, before exploring his transition into Oeno, the Oeno portfolio tasting, which took place at the start of the pandemic last year, before Olivier gives us a medium-term outlook for the company, touching on wines in the portfolio, Oeno Group's place in the market and the advantages of working with Oeno Trade, links between Oeno Trade and Oeno Future, future innovation on the cards for the company. Olivier describes the broader flows of wine within the group, before discussing investment opportunities and talking about the Oeno Group customer journey. Enjoy.
I came into wine by a complete chance, or sort of chance, because I am from a region from France, which is the Loire Valley, where many of my school friends from my younger years are now wine producers. And my grandfather used to produce some wine also in the region, so I've been in contact with wine from a pretty early age. However, I didn't know much about wine until I came to the UK. And in the UK, I came across a gentleman who kind of became my mentor, and I worked for him for like 3-4 years as a sommelier. So he gave me a chance to work with him, to learn from scratch and to learn from working on the job. And thanks to him, I started to pass some diplomas, to get qualifications in wine. And I was lucky enough to work at a time where the UK wine scene was booming, which was the early 2000s, so 2001, 2002, 2003. So I got lucky to work in some top restaurants with really extensive wine lists, where I started to build up my knowledge about wine. And then in later years, I also worked in some Michelin star level kind of outlets, where I just broadened my knowledge in terms of wine, but also in terms of food, because food and wine, they always work together, particularly in the French or Italian culture. And I also started to discover other things like sake, spirit. So I'm actually a sake specialist as well. I'm a spirit specialist. So I've got a wide array of knowledge in terms of drinks in general. And in recent years, I got also lucky enough to work in different countries. So I worked in Middle East, so countries like Dubai, like Abu Dhabi, like Qatar. I also worked in China. I worked in Norway. I worked in Morocco, and UK quite a bit. So I got a good opportunity to explore different cultures, different styles, different tastes when it comes to wine. I was working in hospitality for quite a few years, and came the time when not that I had enough of hospitality because I still have many good friends and I really enjoyed many part of this particular trade. But I wanted to see something a bit different. And I think Oeno as a group was the opportunity I was looking for quite a while. I was a bit concerned to move from one side of the trade to the other, but I think it was a good move at the time. And Oeno, what I found really attractive with Oeno was the fact that the company was relatively new, young and vibrant, with plenty of opportunities to build up from scratch pretty much everything. So I started to bring in some wineries I really think highly of. So from different countries, different regions. And also the fact that this is a company which focuses a lot on fine wine investment really attracted me because in my latest hospitality jobs I thought I was missing a little bit the fine wine aspect. So getting back into a really exclusive, high quality wine program was also very attractive to me. And working with a bunch of crazy people was also quite fun. So I think it's a nice part of the job. So I joined Oeno in April 2019, so about 2.5 years ago. And at the time, it was still a relatively small company where we had maybe about 10 employees. So it was a really tight-knit company. And little by little, it started to grow. So we had to move offices. We started to move into the city of London, which was a very good move, where we started to attract top quality brokers, or portfolio managers, as we call them, and develop the fine wine investment side. In the meantime, I was also employed mostly to develop the wine trade, so selling wine to the restaurant trade, as well as to prepare for the opening of a retail fine wine bar, which we call Oeno House. And those two activities took a bit of time. In all honesty, it's been a bit tricky with the COVID pandemic, but it came into shape first for the trade, because the trade started earlier. It started pretty much a few months after I joined, and I started to contact some of my friends from the sommelier scene and started to sell wine to restaurants. It's been positive to start with, and then we did something quite extraordinary, which was our first portfolio testing. Having been in the trade for quite a few years, I know how to attend those kind of portfolio testing. You've got one pretty much every day of the week in the UK, but the one we did was in the city, in the Leadenhall building, and it was absolutely extravagant and fantastic. So we had a huge and a very nice attendance, about 200 plus people from the trade, and also in the evening we did an event for the private clientele. The one for the trade was I think the start really of the trade life for us, because beforehand it was a bit of bits and pieces. From that moment on, I think we put ourselves on the map, and people started to notice us on the trade. Unfortunately, 1 week later, it was the first lockdown. So we did a huge effort to create this event, and which was magnificent. But all our efforts were kind of ruined by the pandemic. So during the pandemic, it's been a question of focusing a lot on the fine wine investment, but the trade kind of survived by online ordering or managing to deliver wine to private individuals. And then when things started to reopen after the first lockdown, we had a little bit of activity, but it was still pretty slow. Then things started to really pick up enormously from April onwards, when they reopened the terraces, and we we started to reach out for better accounts or bigger accounts or more prestigious accounts, and little by little it has picked up. So it went from strength to strength over the summer, which is usually a relatively quiet period for the on-trade. July was a record month, then August easily beat that, and then September was even better and even bigger. This month is going to be the biggest month ever, with almost double the revenue of September. So it's building up, and we can feel there is activity going around. The restaurants are starting are quite busy, and they are very, very busy. And they are busy in terms of quality as well, which is what we want, because we are not offering some cheap and cheerful wines. We are offering some of the world's greatest wines. So we've been able to start looking at really, really exciting new accounts in terms of restaurants or clubs or hotels. To name a few, you've got Sketch, which is a 3 Michelin star restaurant in close to Regent Street. We've got a place called the Maison Estelle, which is a new private members club in Mayfair. Mayfair is actually pretty vibrant at the moment, with a few openings where we are starting to step our mark. So there is one place called Mimi Mayfair, which is a new Chinese restaurant aiming at Michelin star level, which I am in discussion with. We have Ekstedt, which is a new Swedish concept which has just opened. We are in the final stages of working with them. Annabelle's Club in Berkeley Square. We've got those kind of places which will make a difference for us, because now it's not only to open accounts with prestigious outlets, it's a question of also developing volume, offering a wide range of wines. So I'm pretty proud of what we offer, because our selection is really exciting, but I think the future is looking quite good, despite the weather today, where it's a little bit rainy. Now, in terms of the way we structure our wine buying is a little bit peculiar, because we do buy direct from quite a few wineries. As I mentioned, I introduced quite a few of them, but we are using about 70 wineries exclusively. So we import 70 wineries. We also do purchase quite a bit from the secondary market, which means wines which have been bought by whichever individual or company and sold down again. This is important when you want to find some extremely exclusive and rare wines. We take a lot of precautions with it, because we don't want to buy any counterfeited products, but we have some really strong partners in the secondary market from whom we buy. So we are not buying from anywhere we can. We are only buying from 4 particular partners, and the source of those wines is immaculate. So we are taking steps to guarantee the quality to our customers. Also, we do buy quite a bit of wine from the Bordeaux market. So Bordeaux is not only a city; it's a market where wine from all over the world is being sold. So we buy Bordeaux from Bordeaux, of course, but we do buy quite a bit of Italian wines, Spanish wines, American wines, which can only be bought from this particular Bordeaux market. And then, in order to also improve our selection and improve our collections, we also do buy a little bit from UK merchants who have maybe exclusivity for some wineries. So it is the case for a few wineries which we've been buying for the last few years since I joined, and maybe a little before I joined. So our aim is not to be like sharks and get everything we can, because it's not always possible, but it's a question of improving our selection, having collections of the world's greatest wines, and sometimes it's better to buy from the UK merchant. So we do a little bit. and then we will estimate for our private clientele when it is the best time to sell. And it is where I step in, because I'm the person who is really looking after the sale of the wines afterwards. So we contact our friends from the trade, from the prestigious Michelin star restaurants, from the top clubs, from the top hotels, and try to sell those wines on. So we are in October 2021. It looks like November, so the day after tomorrow, is going to be an extremely busy month, which usually is the busiest month of the year in terms of trade. So the restaurants are gearing up to get extremely busy, extremely packed in the build-up to Christmas. So we are expecting a very, very busy month for me personally and professionally, which is what I need, because I think it's nice to be able to support our friends from the trade. And then December will come. December, I don't really know what to expect, because December is a very weird month usually on the trade, because the first 10 days, 2 weeks tend to be quite busy, and then it's really dying down up to New Year's Eve. Even the Christmas period is not really a busy time. But we've had COVID. We've seen a summer which was unusually busy for the trade, so we might be busy until the end of the year. Then come January next year. January is usually the quietest month of the year. It's a month where people recover from Christmas. There is a dry January kind of story, which I don't understand personally. There is also a financial aspect to it, because people have spent quite a bit of money during the Christmas period. So it's likely we are going to be a little quieter in January, but usually in the UK, the third week of January is when people start building up again, buying wine again, and preparing for the rest of the winter and transition to spring. Because in February, the Chinese New Year is a very, very important moment on the trade, particularly when you've got Asian restaurants as clients. It's becoming kind of busier than the Christmas period sometimes, particularly for Chinese restaurants, as you can imagine. So February should be a very good month, and then the build up to the rest of the year, where we are going to have plenty of exciting things to introduce to the trade, and to our clientele, and to our retail shoppers as well. One thing which is a little sad, but it's sad for a temporary period, is the wine bar which we have, Oeno House, which is likely to close down for a few weeks, given that we are an outside space. However, one of the very positive thing, and one of the thing we are all looking for, is the opening of a new unit next to our retail part, which will be a large unit where we are going to open all year round wine bar. And this is planned to happen hopefully by March, April next year. And this will allow us to have a really nice space for any time of the year, when it's raining, when it's sunny, when it's cold, when it's warm, with about 20 seats inside the building. And we have also the possibility to have 20 outside seats, because it's kind of covered by the arcade of the Royal Exchange. So it's not inside, but it's kind of inside. So we are going to have a very exciting opening in the sort of beginning of the year, or at the end of the first quarter. And then we also are looking for options to open a second Oeno House somewhere in the world. So this should be potentially in Florida, in the US, around Miami. and we are hoping to open it sometimes next year. It's not a quick fix because this kind of project tend to take time, and given my experience in the hospitality sector, I've done 6 openings around the world. It's never easy to open a new place, but it's exciting, new market. The American market is a really interesting one for us because it's about a year and a half we started to sell to American clients for investment, and now we are going to be able to sell their wines locally, potentially distribute to local restaurants as well. So opening a Oeno house is an opportunity for us to also develop the on-trade sales, which is really good, and also the online sales, which we are developing at the moment. And then there's a third project of Oeno House, which is in the pipeline. I'm not pretty sure when it's going to happen because it's a question of finding the right location also very, very often. Being able to find the right location, to find the perfect setting for a successful outlet. So we are looking at Italy. And Italy is an historical market for us. With first because our founder is Italian. Second because a very large chunk of our clientele is from Italy. We have about, I would say, 25% of our clientele is Italian in terms of fine wine investment. And there is a huge potential in Italy in terms of fine wine because you can find French wine, you can find Burgundies, you can find Champagnes, Bordeaux. But for the rest of the world, it's pretty tricky to find wine in Italy. And all the top Italian sommeliers, top restaurants in Italy, particularly in the north, are looking for such wines. So we would come in unvisited territory in terms of fine wine, and we are already in touch with about 10 of the top Italian sommeliers who are just waiting for us. So we are already started. We've already started to sell them some wines, but on a ad hoc basis. But this Oeno house in Italy would be a good opportunity to reach out for great Italian clients and to further our stepping into the Italian market. It's likely to be towards the north of Italy. So we were thinking about Venice or places like Milan, really where the wealth is sitting, because the south of Italy is a little trickier. But we will see what comes up with our team when we find the right location, and then. Doing all those openings, developing all those projects will also force us, but in a good way, to also have a more established logistical kind of idea. So having some warehouses in the different countries I mentioned, being able to deliver, so to have deliveries organized for our clientele to be able to consume wine. So this will be the next step. I think it will take a bit of effort, but I think it will make us a market leader in what we do. In terms of wine now properly, we are quite strong, I feel, in terms of French wines, in terms of Bordeaux. A little bit, but it's not our strength. Bordeaux, I think we will be quite strong in 5 years' time, or maybe a little more, because we are building up stocks for the future, and we are buying quantity for the future. But at the moment, it's not drinkable. The Burgundy region is relatively good. We have a few very good wineries and really world-class wineries in our portfolio, plus what we buy on the secondary market. Then we have Champagne. We are pretty proud of our 3 Champagne agencies, which are very different from one to another, but really exciting the trade in particular. And then a few wineries here and there in the Loire Valley, in the Rhône, in not yet in Alsace, unfortunately, but it might come in future. Italy is a very strong region for us, a very strong country in terms of wine. We have quite a few existing wineries, but we are adding some new wineries as we speak. So we are waiting for 3 new wineries to join us in the next few weeks. We are waiting for the stock, in other words. So one from Piedmont, which is a very established one. One from Etna in Sicily, which is maybe one of the most exciting one. And one from Campania in the south of Italy. So those will the stock will arrive within 1 month. So apart from those Italian wineries, I'm pretty sure we are going to look into other parts of the world, because what is interesting in fine wine investment is you see where the market trends are located. So one of the really strong origin in terms of wine on the fine wine investment is California at the moment. So we have a winery which is not new, but it's not yet with us in the UK. We are shipping the stock as we speak, which is a classic winery called Philippe Togny. We've been trading their wines for a little while, but unfortunately with the logistical issues, it's not been possible to ship the wine, but it's on the way. And we might look at adding a couple more from California in the near future. But California is already a very strong region for us, because we are working with quite a few wineries. We have added relatively recently a winery from Oregon, and the sky is the limit. We will see where we stand next year, but we will add up to this. We have a couple of wineries from South Africa, and I suppose we will add up to this, because South Africa, in terms of excitement, in terms of value for money, in terms of vibrancy, in terms of the newcomers on the wine world, is for me one of the most exciting country around. So I am in discussion with one, but I'm pretty sure we'll look into different options. At the moment, we are a bit weird in terms of our selection, because we don't list any New Zealand wines, whereas most of the competition is selling a bucket full of Sauvignon Blanc from Marlborough. If we are to take a winery from New Zealand, I would expect this to be a boutique winery producing really extraordinary quality. It's not about doing volume on New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. Well, it's not our cup of tea. We need to be proud of what we present to our clientele, whoever they are. And in Australia, potentially we can look into things. Where we are a little thin is South America. We do buy from the Bordeaux markets a few wines, but it's wines which are widely available on the market, so it's not exactly exclusive. Possibly in future we'll have opportunities to look into such wines or such wineries, but it might take a little time, but never say never again. And in terms of other regions which we have on our portfolio, we have an exciting winery from Lebanon, for instance, which is surely one of the 2 or 3 best winery in the country. We have a top winery from China as well, which is for me by far the best winery you can find. And we are looking for little gems, because you always have to reinvent yourself in this kind of trade. You have to think on the fine wine investment front about finding the very rare bottles, but also for the trade side, it's maybe not exactly always the same wine you will look for. And we need to offer value to our trade clients and retail clients and online clients, some wines which are more affordable. So we are actively looking for a producer in Germany. We do buy some German wines, but we need a Riesling producer in particular. So yesterday we had a unsuccessful tasting of quite a few Rieslings, which were not very nice, not exciting, and not good enough for what we are looking for. So we are not here to please our friends and families. We are here to run a business and to find the right fit for any client we are looking for.
Yeah, I love the way that you really weave that together. I think that's really given us quite a detailed and like in-depth view of the company, and really I think your thinking and the current state, which I think is what always these podcasts do best. They essentially capture that moment in time, and you'll, I'm sure, listen back to this in 6 months and maybe have found your Riesling producer and maybe have found your New Zealand producer. Hopefully somebody who's listening here may be able to help. One thing that I think we haven't done really for the listener, which I think would be interesting, is perhaps to kind of draw out, because when I was researching and looking through, really, I guess the unique offering, why work with Oeno Trade as opposed to any one of your number of competitors. My understanding was that you were doing some quite unique things in terms of the way that you packaging your offering and essentially some of the added value services that you were providing. So I think, perhaps, draw back and again, I'm sure that's developed since 2019, but maybe give us a feel for what it's like to kind of go on that customer journey again today in October 2021.
So I think if you compare us to our closest competitors on the trade, one would be Wine Source, one would be Cult Wine, maybe others around, but we so first and foremost we offer fine wine investment to our clients, and then down the line at some point we will sell those wines to someone. Or to sell on the wine, and that's our main aim. But very few companies do like us, which is offer fine wine investment, but offer some exit strategy in terms of sales. So we have a couple of options, or maybe even 3 options to sell the wines of our clients. One is the restaurant trade. The second is our retail part, Oeno House, and our wine bar, but also the online offering. And maybe an option which could come up at some point, because we are looking into it, we've been looking into it for a little while, is the option to work with established auction houses for the really rare and extremely premium products. So that's one thing which differentiates us from our competitors, I think, because we are really focusing on very different sides of the business and sides of the trade. On the other hand, if I focus mostly on the on-trade sales, so to the hospitality sector, I think the early part of the Oeno Trade sales were kind of ad hoc, as I said earlier, which were a bit of wine here and there to some established friends, but it started slowly. But this year it has picked up enormously, and next year is going to be very busy. I think we expect to reach a really high level of trade next year. And this is because we not only we offer some fantastic wines, every single one of them I'm very proud of on our portfolio, but also because we propose to support the trade, which has been devastated in the last year and a half due to the pandemic, with a lot of companies with a lot of cash flow issues. So the aim is yes, to sell wines, but also to support our partners in crime. So the restaurant trade needs support. They are doing a fantastic job in really difficult circumstances at the moment. So we tend to be a little flexible on things which our competitors are not flexible with. So being flexible when you work on the trade is defined by how much is your minimum order, and minimum order for many companies has to be at least 350, 400, 500, if not more, pounds per delivery, which we haven't done so far. We might have to look into a minimum order in future, but
so at the moment you have no minimum order.
No. We didn't want to put any restrictions to start with, because we have to step in as a kind of newcomer. So that's a very important aspect for the trade. The other thing is payment terms. Payment terms, you've got many companies, when you work on the trade, you know about this, which are offering some really strong payment terms. So you can offer maybe month after month end to receive payment for an order, which allows a little bit of breathing space for some of the restaurant trade, for some of the restaurants or hotels or clubs to pay for their bills. The thing is, we have to be a little picky from our point of view, because it's a bit of a case-by-case scenario. There are some companies which are legendary for not paying well their suppliers. So those companies, at the moment, we are not working with. And we would only work with such companies if we have guarantee that the payments will be done properly. But again, in terms of the flexibility we have, and we are quite strong with it, and I think it's been quite popular, particularly since the beginning of the summer, is the fact that we offer wine on consignment to some of our closest partners in the trade. So it means you are not going to deliver wine and to just anyone in the trade. You are going to build up relationship with really friends or people you know pretty well on the trade. Allow them to list some wines which they will only pay when they sell the bottles. And this is not only done by us. I know we have a few competitors who are doing it, but we've been doing it for the last year and a half, 2 years, more than 2 years actually. So it's really helping the restaurants which are struggling a little bit with their cash flow. So usually small restaurants, individual restaurants which may need to have a little bit of time to settle their bills, and so offering wine on consignment for these would definitely help improve their selection on the one hand with really quality wine, but on the other hand, help them having a little bit of cash flow in order to be able to pay little by little what they sell, and not being struggling every month to pay for a bill. So it started really early in my time with Oeno, with a restaurant called Heritage, which is a Swiss concept in Soho. But since then, I've started to develop it a little bit with other restaurants. One is called Kahani, which is in Sloane Square, fantastic Indian restaurant, and since the start of 2021, it has started to pick up, or late 2020. We've started to open consignment account with quite a few outlets, to name but few: Saint Swithin's Wine Shippers in the city. We've got things like Maison Estelle, which is a new private members club in Mayfair. We've got a place called Corrigan's in Mayfair. We've got a place called Bentley's in Piccadilly. So little by little, it has started to accelerate, and consignment has become a very popular scheme, because those places, they are able to list the craziest wine in the planet and only pay when they sell the bottle. And that's really a key factor for them, particularly taking into account, and I keep on telling this to my close colleagues from the wine team or from Oeno in general, the restaurant trade is in trouble in terms of the number of employees, because they are struggling to find some employees. So struggling to find employees means a lot of pressure on the staff in the restaurant. So it means the buyer for the restaurant, whether it is a sommelier or a manager, will not have much time to check around what's happening, to work with dozens of suppliers. They need to take a shortcut in terms of what they buy. So if the relationship is there with Oeno, they will tend to prioritize us in terms of their listings. And consignment is a way of really making their selection extraordinary.
So it's really interesting to hear more about those two ways, really, that you're helping the hospitality trade and supporting them in terms of the cash flow, really. And I'm just curious, are there any particular examples of that Oeno on consignment actually, driving, as you say, certain purchases of certain wines that kind of stand out to you perhaps over time?
The thing is, I think consignment originally was a scheme we wanted to offer. I think it's still the case in a way, but to offer only to a few accounts. We are not going to become a monster company like our friends from Bibendum or Oeno Trade or Liberty, who have a huge portfolio, huge number of accounts in terms of restaurants, because we are not able to do this at the moment. We are a small company still. But we have the aim to work very closely with a few key partners. One of them I mentioned several times is called Maison Estelle. It's a very good example. And to answer your question, Maison Estelle is a club which has just opened in Mayfair, like 4 weeks ago, and it's already becoming our biggest client in terms of trade. So if an outlet like this start listing from us maybe 80, 90 different wines, it will make a huge difference to our on-trade arm. That's what we do at the moment, and despite being owned by a big company, wealthy company, they can't afford everything either. They need to be a bit careful with their finances. So they take some of their wine as a normal consumption, normal order, but for the priciest, they will use consignment, and I think it's working extremely well, because for example, we had some messages yesterday from the team. They sold a few of our consignment wines, so it helps them to spray a little bit the payments, allows them to list some of the wines which everyone wants to list. To name a few wines, there's a producer in Burgundy called Coche du Riz. Coche du Riz, a cheap bottle of Coche du Riz would be £300. An expensive bottle of Coche du Riz would be £4,000 to £5,000 a bottle. So everyone cannot afford listing a bottle like this and pay it upfront. So consignment is a good way of having such bottles on your selection, on your wine list, while also enabling their own clientele to access such wine. If they want to buy a bottle like this, they are able to sell it on their wine list, and it's fantastic.
Do you potentially have any examples around the minimum order? And I think people can relate to
minimum order. We've been flexible, as I said, but usually it's around £200, which is fine for now, or maybe 12, 18 bottles of wine. So but we've shown a lot of flexibility, because we wanted to develop the trade in future. If we feel that financially it makes more sense to have a slightly higher minimum order, we may revise, but at the moment we are happy like this. We are happy to develop our trade side of the business. So it's I think that's the most important. Comes what comes in future. We'll see how to adapt. And one last thing I didn't mention, which we also do, which is a bit peculiar. I don't think any other companies does it. is to offer some investment to our private client, which are specifically for the trade, and we call them investment trade account. So those are investment of any such sum, but they concern wines which are not for actual investment. They are wines which our clients invest in. With a little premium, we sell it on to the trade. And those have been very useful because it is the kind of wine we use to allow volume. And to be able to do volume is really good. To be able to develop accounts in terms of quality, but also quantity is also important when you start selling on the trade. So some of our oldest trade clients have been buying from us for pretty much almost 2 years, in all honesty. But I know a couple of them are kind of buying, but buying small quantity from time to time. But in recent weeks, they started to look at more volume wine, to use wines by the glass, which is always very good. When you want to promote some of the agencies we represent, it's always very great to have wines by the glass in such outlets. So Sketch, the free Michelin star restaurant, is starting to use our top quality Lebanese winery, their best wine, which is called Chateau Bellevue Le Chateau, in their tasting menu, which is exactly what we want, exactly what the winery want, to be represented in one of the best restaurants in Europe. But also from the restaurant perspective, I think they are very happy to be able to showcase something which is a bit unusual and which offers something different to their clientele. Similarly, we are working with a hotel in King's Cross, which is called the Standard Hotel. The Standard, I'm very good friends and very old colleague of mine from a previous job with the beverage manager. We've started to develop a little more the wine selection from our side. And now they are pouring a few wines by the glass from us, which makes a big difference because you move from maybe one order per month to 2 orders per week or 3 orders per week. So money-wise, it's one aspect, but the important aspect is to look at the development of the relationship and being able to showcase more wines. Showcase it to more people, and that's really exciting.
We're sat here and interviewing outside the brokerage office of Oeno Future, which is a little bit of the noise you might have heard earlier on. But I think it again, it's always interesting to me to hear really again, how does your role as head of Oeno Trade, how does that then fit back into Oeno Futures and potentially making that link back to where we're sat today?
In all honesty, it's been an interesting and tricky aspect to develop. So I've always been quite close with the brokers or portfolio managers. They are very good at selling wines to their private clients, but down the line, we always have to have in mind the exit strategy for our clients, and our clients' happiness is the most important aspect of our company. So my role in terms of organizing the sales down the line of the private client wine is important. With the trade being a little bit topsy-turvy in the last year and a half, it's been a little tricky, but this year it has really become a very important task and subject in our company, because we have to be able to convince our client to sell their wine when we need them for the restaurant trade or for our retail and wine bar. But on the other hand, we have to remain friends with our brokers in Oeno and make sure they are happy, they are seeing the benefit of being able to offer an exit strategy for their client. So it's something which is working better and better. It's not an easy thing to organize and to install in such a company, but it's doing better and better. And it's an opportunity for our brokers to also incite their client to buy something else when one wine has been sold. So it's a kind of loop. So we start selling wine to a private client. I come in, I try to sell the wine somewhere else, and then our private client may reinvest again. So I think it's in the benefits of everyone, and it's working better and better. And I think it's an interesting concept. It's not always easy. There are some wines which are a little tricky because they are so rare and so expensive. Some clients might be a bit not too inclined to sell them. But on the other hand, wine is not eternal. You have to drink them at some point. Only a few wines can age for decades and decades. So it's a question of being organized. It's a question of managing the stock carefully. It's a question of advising our private clientele properly. It's a question of finding the right place where to sell the wine on. So if you try to sell a Coche Dury bottle in a local restaurant where the wine list is very small, there's no point. It's not going to work. But if you deal and manage accounts like big private members club in Mayfair, top Michelin star restaurant around the country, because we also work with restaurants outside of London, this is the perfect opportunity to sell those bottles. I didn't mention we were working with other restaurants outside of London, but we do have clients in the Lake District. We do have clients in Darlington. We have clients in Hampshire. I'm about to open an account with a place in Oxfordshire. I've got a potential client next week in Cornwall. So it's a more varied selection of clientele on the trade than about 2 years ago. Being close to the brokers is important. And the other thing I do personally, which is quite helpful in having a nice relationship with them, is to help them fix any issue they may have with our stock system, which is a very peculiar type of system we are using in terms of stock control, cost control. It's called the CRM, and our CRM is custom made for us. So it's a tool which we use online, which allows us to sell wine on the trading floor for our brokers, which is a tool also to keep track of the costing, keep track of the market price, keep track of where the wine will be sold on in future. It will be a tool which we are developing at the moment in terms of our private clientele will be able to download an app and see the evolution of their wine portfolio. It's also a tool which will allow us to manage stock and sell stock through our retail and wine bar on our online platform. And in future, the big aim, which is a very, very tricky one, is to be completely live, which means a wine is live and available for anyone to buy on our platform. So this is taking time because it's a tricky system to put into place. It's been going on for the last 2 years, almost, but it's taking shape. And now we are in a place where we are very close to being able to do pretty much everything live, which is the aim of our CEO. And I think when we get there, we can concentrate on other things, which is also important. Taking care of our clients, which is the most important, whoever they are, private clients, trade clients, retail clients, wine bar clients, online clients, and sell them our fantastic wines.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And that's, I think that's a great, way to talk about the technology really and wine. One of the oldest drinks in the world, and some drink that has got so much history and has got so many stories behind it, and draws us in as people working in the trade and draws in customers. But ultimately, it is 2021, and having that, what you're saying there in terms of completely live system. There are so many moving parts that I'm sure that's quite a massive challenge. That's kind of I'm sure. And I think one other thing that I think would give us a real interesting insight, because there are sort of, I guess so many routes really in which that wine can flow, once it's bought, and you've outlined a couple of times those different routes. Could you give us a sense of where does most of it currently flow, in terms of to the trade, to obviously to retail, online, and even a sense of how often or how much of that is actually being drunk by the people who bought the wine in the first place?
I think when we moved into the first lockdown, I think the way we managed some of the wines started to change a little bit, because home consumption of wine started to increase. So we started to we haven't got many, but it's only going to grow. We started to have some private clients ordering for our home consumption, whether it is internal consumption, because we have also our needs in terms of wine consumption in-house. So we, some of our staff, including me, are ordering wines from our stock, but also private clients, mostly my clients. Actually, it's about maybe 60, 70 clients who have ordered relatively regularly. So this is where some of the wines has gone.
As a percentage, is it possible to say as a range?
I think it's like 0.5%. It's really very, very small. Then we have our retail and wine bar part, Oeno House, which is increasingly busy. So it started in July, slowly, and little by little is picking up. So in terms of retail, it's still relatively slow, but it will develop with our online platform. In terms of wine bar, it's been going relatively strongly in the last month and a half. We have a location in the city of London, so it's not exactly the place where weekends are very busy. So the activity is concentrated during the week. Mondays are quiet, Fridays are a bit up and down, but the strong days are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And Thursday in particular is a very, very strong day. So Thursdays have been really busy. So this has allowed us to see some flow of wine going through. Here we are talking maybe 1% at the moment, again, but it's only going to increase in future, particularly when we open our unit next door. And on the trade, it started from pretty much nothing to now, I would say, hopefully by the end of the year, we will be about 5%. But it's only going to go up in future. And we expect next year maybe to reach 10-15%, hopefully. We are not rushing into things. We are not rushing into employing someone to assist, because we need to do step by step. But from the moment we employ someone else to assist me in the trade, we will see the trade develop further and further. So in terms of wine, we keep 99.9% 99.9% of our stock in a warehouse which is located in Derbyshire, close to Derby, close to Birmingham, which is a warehouse specialized in fine wine. And I really like this warehouse because the service is really very good. Their deliveries, if they need to deliver wine wherever in the UK, is very consistent and very good. And the good thing is they take good care of our wines. They check really carefully the quality of the bottles they receive. It's not a massive warehouse, but it's a very professional warehouse. And so a vast majority of our wines is located there, and they will remain there until their drinking window comes. So some wines might be in a short-term window, but some wines may need 5, 10, 15 years before they reach their potential, drinking potential. So they will not move once in the next few years. And it's quite important in the wine world to have perfect condition in terms of wine storage, which is cool temperature, constant temperature, no light, and the wine will age gracefully for many years. So that's where the vast majority of our stock is located. Now, due to the logistical issues and lockdowns throughout the world, we have a lot of stock which is either pending in some warehouses or on the way with some transporters, but also with our winery, exclusive wineries. So all in all, I would guess we are expecting maybe 50,000 bottles to come in the next few months into our stocks, which may develop into a problem in future because the warehouse we currently use in Derbyshire is big, but it's not extensive. It's not huge. So the question has always been, and maybe if the opportunity comes, to open our own warehouse and to manage our own stock, which might be good, might be bad, but at the moment we haven't got any need for this. But as I said a bit earlier, if we develop markets like the US, in Florida, Italy, this is something we are looking at. So it is very possible we will open our own warehouse and manage our own stock. But it's something which is very difficult, and we'll see what happens in future. So to answer your question finally, most of the stock is currently lying for aging purposes in our warehouse. Part is being liquidated through the wine trade for the restaurant trade, part through our retail and wine bar, and in future, potentially, as I mentioned once, we may look at selling the wine on through auction. But many of the wines are starting to be consumed, which is very good, and we have such a variety of offering. From the entry-level wines for us up to the crazy wines which are selling for really premium pricing. They've started to be consumed, and I would expect until the end of the year we will see a little bit of movement, hopefully quite a bit, and next year much more movement.
The fact that there is a lot of the wine there aging, that's I guess a sign of the age of the company, but also the approach to sort of buying wine that still needs some aging.
I think it's the nature of the business. In all honesty, there are wines which are for early drinking, which are going to be sold relatively quickly, but many wines are built to age, are made to age for quite a few years. And the very best wines in the world, they are meant to age for quite a while. So in terms of investment, I'm also involved in the investment part for two things, because I help the brokers very often to make up the portfolio they offer to their clients. And on the other hand, I've got some clients of my own who are investing. So I've got a few clients, not many because I haven't got time for it, but I've got a few clients A few are my friends, my personal friends, very close friends. Some are clients I met for whatever reason, and we decided to start an investment together. So the investment aspect is tricky, but it's good. Maybe it will bring a bit of light to what you're asking, because I'll give an example. In France, traditionally, people invest in Bordeaux, and only Bordeaux. And investing in Bordeaux, when you've got the aim of drinking the wine after a few years, it's completely fine, because you can buy en primeur at a relatively affordable price, and then over time it will grow in terms of price and quality. But very often in France, people invest in Bordeaux in order to drink the wine at some point. Whereas what we do is not exactly the same. Very few of our clients are going to invest to drink. Most of them, if not a vast majority of them, are going to invest to sell on at some point. So if you invest only in the Bordeaux region, in some Bordeaux Chateau, Bordeaux wines, you're likely to make a loss. Not really long term. If you have a very long term view of investment, you will not make a loss. But if you want to invest for, let's say, 2-3 years, if you invest in Bordeaux, you are likely to make a loss, because Bordeaux, it's extremely competitive. Many merchants are selling Bordeaux. It's widely available. Production level is high. It's really visible on the market. So it's very tricky to make good revenue, good profit on Bordeaux on a short-term basis. Whereas if you invest in rare Burgundy, here it's a completely different story, because we talk about sometimes wines which are produced by 600 bottles, 1,000 bottles. So the offer is low from the start. Price varies, but if the wine is rare, the producer is exceptional, and the vintage is exceptional, the wine is likely to grow extremely quickly and with a crazy increase. We looked at a wine producer yesterday. We discussed actually yesterday with a colleague of mine. There's one wine. 2-3 years ago, the one bottle of this particular wine was worth £300 a bottle. Today, it's worth £1,850 a bottle.
In 1 year?
In a little over 1 year. So the increase is 600% plus. So this is what happens with rare wine, and that's also what we are specialized in. And so Burgundy, Barolo in Piedmont, some Tuscan wines, a few, some American wines. They won't all have the same pattern in terms of because 600% increase in a year. It's the exception rather than the rule, but that's the kind of thing we are looking at. And the other thing we absolutely have to do, and that's why I mentioned Bordeaux. It's not because I don't like Bordeaux, on the contrary, but it's very important when you do investment to mix and match. So if you do an investment, it's important to have a little bit of Bordeaux, some Burgundy, some Italian wines, which are doing extremely strongly at the moment, some Spanish wines, some American wines, to be able to have different type of investment. Some might be shorter term, some might be longer term, but you offer something which is balanced to your clients. Because investment, if you show some bad results to your clients, they will stop investing with you and they will go away and they will sell their wines. And that's not what we want. We want to offer investment which is viable, and in the same time, we want to be able to have an exit strategy through the wine trade, through the retail, through our wine bar, etc., etc.
I think that the final part for me is just to ask, a little bit around the customer journey. Really, I mean, is there a way in which it tends to follow that people will become customers, that they will start to invest in you? What's a sort of a typical customer journey?
Many companies who are doing a similar job as us are kind of pestering clients by giving them a phone call all the time. It's not exactly what we do. What we do is we use specialized publication like Forbes, for instance, or investment publication, which where we do some advertisement. And usually people who are interested, they will raise interest either on our website, or they will put a post on Facebook, for instance, or LinkedIn or Instagram. So social media is a very important part of our trade, actually. By raising an interest and by leaving their contact details, they will then be contacted by brokers, not the other way around. From this start, many people will not be interested in talking to anyone. So they might have shown interest, but in the end, they are not interested. They are not bothered to start investing. But quite a few are. So every month, we are adding quite a lot of new clients to our database. At the moment, it must be, I'm not too sure, but around 4,000, 5,000 clients. So every month, we have quite a few new clients. Those are the ones where the brokers has been successful in investing with us. So that's the second part. And then the third part is to offer dedicated or perfectly suited portfolio of investment to those clients like a bank would do on the stock market. But again, bearing in mind that the portfolio you offer as an investment needs to be balanced, needs to be of quality, needs to offer excitement, not really, because the clients, they generally don't know much about wine, but they need to make sense. And they need to make sense in terms of the length of investment you're proposing. So many wines would be only for 2-3 years. This is relatively short term. Up to 5 years, maybe medium term, and over 5 years for long term. And if you balance the length of investment also with the origin of the wine and the quality of the producers you offer, you have a good tool to work with your private client in terms of what we can offer as investment. One other thing which is important is we have many clients who are not going to invest a fortune into wine. Usually the initial investment is around £5,000 or sort of. Very few clients will start with more than this, but some will. And some clients will invest massively. We have a few clients, I would say about a dozen clients, who have very, very big portfolio. We talk about maybe £500,000 worth of wine with us. So those clients, they don't get a completely different service, but they are kind of different because they are established clients. Most generally, they've been investing for quite a few years. I know most of them personally because I deal with them personally because I need to also be able to sell their wine at some point. So the relationship is building up, and actually I'm becoming quite good friends with 2 or 3 of them. So it's quite good, and it's a really enjoyable part of my job.
A huge thank you to Head of Trade Olivier Gasselin for taking us inside the rapid growth of the trade arm of the business. Do see below for the Oeno Group website and main social media handles. And for more details on wine investment with Oeno Group, please email info@oenofuture.com. And for special tastings or private events at Oeno House, which boasts a private 10-person tasting room and outside alfresco terrace, email louisa@oenohouse.com. Please make sure you're subscribed to Interpreting Wine to be alerted when the next series goes live. And of course, I'd love to have you following along with me on social media, where I'm at Interpreting Wine on Instagram and Facebook, at Wine Podcast on Twitter, and email hello@interpretingwine.com. Next time on the Oeno Group series, we welcome Justin Nock MW, Oeno Group's Head of Wine. See you then.